With me is Mr. Alfred Levin from the Royal Bank Social Policy Action Group. I have to get the action in the right place.
That's right.
I was interested to read not too long ago in the papers about new community bank branches that the Royal Bank has opened. I think you're the only bank to do it.
That's right, the only bank in the world to do it.
And it really impressed me because I'm very down on banks. I look at bank managers as verbal hitmen at the Rotary Club meetings. But I really was impressed that a bank would actually get out and do this. Could you just explain basically for us what the community branches do?
Right. Well, we found that there were several things. First, in an investigation that I did, that virtually 20%, close to 20% of the population, didn't have any real access to the legitimate financial mechanisms in our society. I'm including finance companies as well as banks and Caisse Populaire and credit unions. And these happen to be the lowest income segment of society. In addition, I found that loan sharking and bailiff seizures, which occur when somebody buys something on credit from a store, and then the paper is sold to a third party. And when you miss 2 or 3 payments, they get a bailiff piece of paper that allows them to come into your house and take the TV set away, and then you still have to pay for the set, even though you don't have it.
So it's a third-party repossession.
Right. And so I found that both of those things, bailiff seizures and loan sharking, tended to occur disproportionately among the lower income and the lower middle income people in Canada. Now, these kinds of things have something to do with banking. And so, as part of our whole thrust, the social policy thrust, which is part of the name of,
right.
of my group, is to examine the social effects of what we do or what we do not do. And if they are undesirable or create problems, that we should try to experiment with ways of changing what we are doing so that we can become more part of the solution than being part of the problem. And it was in that context that we decided, I proposed that we set up a storefront lending operation in a low-income district, in a poverty core district of a big city, in order to see what we could do, if we could do anything. Now, I got approval to do that, and instead of just going out and establishing a storefront lending operation, I did a crazy thing. I went to talk to people.
Don't see much of that these days.
Right. So I went into this low-income area. I had about 5 different low-income areas in mind. And first thing I did was talk to various social agencies and community organizations and governmental bodies and had a meeting with them. And we decided on a 6th place. That shows how bright I am. Because they all agreed that that was a section of the city that really was in distress and that it would be appropriate to have that kind of an experiment. Now, the interesting thing is that we and other banks have branches in those very same districts. But the poor and low-income people have learned not to go into the banks for whatever reason, whether it's our fault or their fault or both. But for whatever reason, they've learned not to go in. So they really don't make use of it. As a consequence, that was why I decided that I would reach out to them and have meetings with them before opening even a storefront. And so once the area was decided upon, I went out and had meetings with the people. Now, people in those circumstances have learned not to go to meetings. Because the only time they call to a meeting is when they are going to be told something that they don't like. So they've learned not to go. As in contrast with us, we middle-class people, we'll even have a meeting to decide on whether to have a meeting or not. But with them, they don't go. So you have to go to the local parish church, to the church parish, and you go to the various local community organizations, get names of people, And you literally go out and knock on doors and drag them out kicking and screaming to come to a meeting. So finally we got people to come to the meetings, and we meet anywhere from 9 to 18 months. And the reason for that is that for the first 4 or 5 months they're tearing us apart. They're saying what you were saying at the very beginning. You know, you've been in the business for 109 years, you never talked to us before. What's the gimmick?
It's very true.
What are you trying to do? And so there's a great deal of suspicion. In addition, in most instances, the low-income person is treated in a very paternalistic way by anybody. The church, the hospitals, the government, the banks, the businesses. When you're dealing with an upper middle class person, upper middle income person, they're always doing you a favor by doing business with you. But with the poor, there's a tendency to say you're doing them a favor. So because of that, they have found that they have to scream and holler and demand all kinds of things in order to get little crumbs. And our approach was just the opposite. Our approach was that we have to work things out. And I really wanted to know what they needed and what they wanted. Now this is a dangerous path to go on, because you might find out you're wrong. You might find out you're not as smart as you thought you were, and you'll have to change your mind. Well, that's wonderful. And in fact, as a matter of fact, I proposed to have a storefront lending operation, and it was only because of these low-income people who were poorly educated, under severe economic stress, who knew nothing about banking, supposedly. Mm-hmm. They knew more about banking than I did.
Well, they've had a lot of experience with the loan sharks.
Right, and they transformed it, and they said they didn't want a lending operation, they wanted a bank, because they wanted their children to learn how to save, and not just to borrow money. And so we included that. They influenced us. They changed many things. They wanted a meeting room, because when they want to have a meeting on various issues that concern them, to go meet in a church basement is fine, but there are some people who are not members of the same parish or the same religion, mm-hmm. and then it's difficult to get them to attend.
So the bank now gives them a meeting place?
Oh, you walk into the branch, and it doesn't look like a bank, it looks like a meeting room. Table, chairs, a bulletin board, and a rack with information, and it doesn't sell the banking services, but the information rack says how to read a contract, all kinds of consumer protection information. And we run meetings even after the branch opens to enable the people to learn how to identify their problem situation and to work out and develop their own workable solutions, not the ones that I want to do, but the ones that they want to do, and to use it in the manner that they want to use it. So we now have a branch in Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg. We just opened one in Vancouver on March the 19th on a Saturday. We had a bilingual announcement, English and Chinese. It was printed by children, mind you, high school kids who did the printing job for us. We had it delivered by other kids who are on the sports teams, and they use the money that they earned for their road trips. We have posters in there on the wall that are written by elementary school children. And they're magnificent posters. They're better than our advertising department, turns out.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. One thing I was very interested in, at the bank, these community branches, people who are very low income can go in and borrow as little as $50 and pay back over like 10 months.
We have made some loans as low as $20 at 15 months to repay. You see, with low income people, what do? You know, when it comes September and you want to buy shoes for the kids so that they can go to school, mm-hmm. because they've outgrown the other shoes and they need some clothing, and all you need is $20 or $50. Where are you going to get it? So we do lend that, but I want you to understand that this is not a charity. We're not doing this.
No, I understand that completely. I think it's high time that one of the banks did this.
And we've learned a great deal. And we don't just lend to anybody just because they need it. If they have a real problem in which the money end of it is only one little sign and those other problems have to be dealt with, the manager is in touch with all the social agencies and community organizations, refers them to those things. He has as many as 4 or 5 interviews with the potential borrower and his spouse in order for them to learn and to turn themselves off if necessary. In other words, we never turn anybody down cold. Mm-hmm. Instead, they know why they were turned down and what they have to do in order to make themselves eligible. And it's not just the lending. We also, as a result of these kinds of meetings, we encourage them to focus on other issues as well. You know, you can hold a meeting on how to rob the bank if you want to. You know, we would let you.
But will the manager chair it?
Maybe. Maybe. But that's another thing. We chair the meetings at the beginning, but we try to encourage them to chair the meetings where the staff would be just another participant.
Is this viable for a bank from an economic standpoint? Does the branch create enough?
At the beginning, we were wondering. That was what the experiment was one of the things the experiment was aimed to find out. And we can see light at the end of the tunnel. We're not going to be making a big pot full of money, that's for sure. But it does seem very probable. In fact, we're pretty sure that it will be in the black. But it'll take longer to be in the black than a normal branch. The standard branch doesn't get into the black in the first year anyway. Mm-hmm. It takes us 3 to 5 years before we recoup the investment.
Before a bank starts to make money.
Before we start making money, you know. So this will take a little longer, but we can really see where it will.
Any plans for the Maritimes to open any down here?
If the Maritimes want it, we're delighted to do it.
Well, I could use one on my block, I'll tell you.
But you see, it isn't aimed only for the poor. You see, the low-income person doesn't want the thing to be strictly, to have a stigma of being only for the poor.
I see what you mean.
They want it as a cross-section of people. But at the same time, we act only with people within the trading area. And why do we do that? Because in trying to reformulate your habits in order to get yourself to do things, you need emotional and social support. It's very hard to do it alone.
Mr. Levin, we're running very short of time here.
Too
I
bad.
have to congratulate the Royal Bank. I'm really impressed that they've done this. Alfred Levin from the Royal Bank Social Policy Action Group, thank you very much.
Thank you.
With me is Mr. Alfred Levin from the Royal Bank Social Policy Action Group. I have to get the action in the right place.
That's right.
I was interested to read not too long ago in the papers about new community bank branches that the Royal Bank has opened. I think you're the only bank to do it.
That's right, the only bank in the world to do it.
And it really impressed me because I'm very down on banks. I look at bank managers as verbal hitmen at the Rotary Club meetings. But I really was impressed that a bank would actually get out and do this. Could you just explain basically for us what the community branches do?
Right. Well, we found that there were several things. First, in an investigation that I did, that virtually 20%, close to 20% of the population, didn't have any real access to the legitimate financial mechanisms in our society. I'm including finance companies as well as banks and Caisse Populaire and credit unions. And these happen to be the lowest income segment of society. In addition, I found that loan sharking and bailiff seizures, which occur when somebody buys something on credit from a store, and then the paper is sold to a third party. And when you miss 2 or 3 payments, they get a bailiff piece of paper that allows them to come into your house and take the TV set away, and then you still have to pay for the set, even though you don't have it.
So it's a third-party repossession.